All right, well, let me just start off by saying I've been pretty defensive and positive about Lucasfilm's project since the Disney purchase. And even with some of the stuff that I had issues with, like Andor, where I kind of criticized its pacing and how the story of the show was kind of all over the place, at the end of the day, I still said that I enjoyed the show. Now, part of why I felt I've had to be a bit defensive of Lucasfilm is because they let me visit the set of The Force Awakens through Make-A-Wish, and because they were so generous, I felt I have to be defensive lest I come off as ungrateful. But I'm also a critic. And as a critic, I have to give my honest opinion. I can't be bought off or bribed to give favorable reviews. I have more integrity than that. And, unfortunately, this is one Lucasfilm project that I simply cannot defend. This was garbage. There's several reasons for this, but the biggest one is no Val Kilmer. Now, I understand why he couldn't come back. Like, even when he was in Top Gun Maverick, he was only in that movie for, 10 minutes. So he certainly can't do a whole season of TV. But, man, his absence is felt here. Because Mad-Mardigan was, the best part of that movie, apart from maybe Warwick Davis. So when you take him out, you feel it. Oh, man. There's this big gaping hole that could only be filled by him. But no, he's gone. Instead, we get a cast of new characters, none of whom are interesting, and almost none of whom give good performances. Now, with the exception of the characters of Borman and maybe Graydon, none of these new characters or actors feel like they're having fun or that they even care. They really phone it in. They're just there to collect a paycheck after the first take and then call it a day. And I feel so sorry for Warwick Davis because he is trying so hard. Bless his heart, he is trying. He's like the one student in the group project who does the brunt of the work, but everyone else who did nothing, or even just the bare minimum, still think that they're the ones who deserve the good grade and take credit for the A, even though he was the one student who actually did anything. And how they write Allura in this is so bad. In theory, seeing an older Allura should be interesting, but they chose to write her the exact same way they write Captain Marvel. She doesn't remember who she is until the end of the show when it's time to fight the big bad, and then she suddenly remembers, oh yeah, I am super overpowered. Woo! What bad character writing. That is not character development. What were you thinking? All these characters are so bland, and I honestly didn't care what happened to any of them. And the show also is so all over the place with the tone. It has no idea what it wants to be. Because half the cast sounds like they're Red Fair performers, and then the other half sound like they're on a CW show. And it really takes me out of it when we have this show that's supposedly set in the realm of fantasy, but then you have an episode where characters wearing cowboy outfits. I'm not kidding. And also, when the entire soundtrack is rock and roll, I'm kind of immersed in the fantasy world, okay, and then on the credits you have, rock and roll covers. What? That doesn't fit at all. That'd be like if you had rock songs in, Lord of the Rings. That would not fit at all. It's just so out of place. I was just baffled at the choices and directions they took with the show. And unfortunately, the finale hints that we're getting season 2 and maybe season 3. And if we do, if you simply must give this show another season or 2, because you already paid for it. Let's say you've already dropped the money, it's already in production, you can't take it back now. If we do get more seasons, please get better writers. Because this show feels like the writers only watched small bits and pieces of the original and then wrote their own really bad fan fiction. And I'm not even a huge fan of the original. It's a fun fantasy movie, but I'm not a super diehard fan. And even I knew there's a lot wrong with this show. Please get writers who understand the appeal of the world of Willow. This could have been this fun fantasy epic, but for a show based on a movie that, let's face it, is pretty cheesy. Willow is not a great movie. It's a good movie. It's not one of the greatest movies of all time. Go back and watch it again. It's pretty cheesy. It's not a bad movie, but it's fun. But this show takes itself way too seriously. It does not feel like the same thing at all. Not even remotely. So maybe next season I'll be able to call this show a worthy follow-up. But for now, it looks like that idea is nothing but pure fantasy. So I have to give the show a D, a 6 out of 10, and 1 out of 5 stars. If you're a true Willow fan, avoid this show. Just go back and watch the original movie. This doesn't exist. This doesn't exist.